It began with a solitary envelope. No signature, no return address, just a line of scribbled words on the back. You deserve to know what he hid. Copies of sealed court records that did not and could not exist were inside. And when Meri Brown read the first page, she knew Kody's empire had been founded on lies so profound, they would devastate everything. What she did afterward would break the Brown family in half. Stick with me, because by the end of this tale, you'll understand precisely how one secret testimony reduced love, loyalty, and wealth to ash. Before we begin, let me know in the comments what you'd do if your own family secrets came knocking on your doorstep. Would you read them or burn them? The morning sun over Flagstaff cuts through the thin curtains of Meri's rented cottage. The desert wind hums softly, carrying dust and regret. She hasn't spoken to Kody in weeks. The calls stopped after another argument about Coyote Pass, money, and promises he'd never kept. But today is different. Something heavy stands in the doorway, a package that thumps with the past. She holds back, opening it finally with a pounding heart, like she did when she signed the divorce documents years earlier. Inside, court documents, legal evidence, and bank statements stamped with Kody's name. The words waver for an instant. Property division, asset concealment, fraudulent account. Her gut knots. The signature at the bottom isn't Kody's, it's hers. Or at least, someone mimicking her. Betrayal doesn't always come screaming. It shows up softly, taped in a manila envelope. She drops down hard, the papers slipping across the table like confessions. For years, Meri had convinced herself that she'd moved on, that Kody's reality was no longer her own. And yet here in black and white, her name has been employed to shuttle hundreds of thousands of dollars she never took, through shell accounts associated with Coyote Pass. Her initial reaction is denial. Perhaps it's a forgery. Perhaps someone's trying to get at them. But the notary seal is real. The date recognized. That's the same week Kody led her to sign routine paperwork for Robyn's property refinance. The room seems smaller now, the air heavy. Cut to Kody's house across town. Robyn is pacing, phone in hand. She's received a text from an unfamiliar number. Just a picture of that same envelope, torn open. Kody brushes it off at first, but his voice cracks when he says, "They said those files were sealed." When a man who's built on control realizes he's losing it, the walls start to talk. Meanwhile, back at Meri's, the camera would remain on her face, anger displacing shock. She calls Janelle first. There is silence in her ear. Then a whisper, "Meri, I think you should come over. There's something you don't know." Janelle's kitchen table is cluttered with folders, various ones, but the same stamps, the same logos. She's been working in secret, audited their old business taxes for months, attempting to figure out why her savings disappeared after the breakup. They lay the papers out on the table, staggering rows of proof that appear to chart Kody's demise. Transfers from family accounts to consulting fees, LLCs linked to nameless addresses in Nevada. All secrets have a paper trail. This is just taking the right woman to track it down. Janelle sighs, tracing her finger down one document. "He didn't just transfer the money, Meri. He used our names to secure it. If this ever comes to court, he's done for." The ring of that word, court, lingers in the air. For years they'd struggled to avoid legal entanglement, defending polygamy, privacy, their right to choose. Now the fight would be internal. That evening, Meri lies awake. She rereads the papers until the words blur, every number and signature cutting deeper into her mind. She considers the fans who once thought they were the ideal plural family. The reality, she realizes, is much more repugnant. In the silence, a choice is made, not with vengeance, but with clear sight. If Kody did use her name in an illegal matter, she deserves to have it cleared, even if it means speaking against him. When you decide on truth over silence, the war begins. The following day, Meri calls a lawyer she knows from years ago, someone who assisted in the family's Utah case. He says he'll meet with her in secret at a coffee shop off the highway. When she pushes the envelope across the table, his brows furrow immediately. "Meri, this isn't family drama. These are financial crimes. If these are real, someone's going down." Her hands are shaking as she takes a sip of coffee. I don't want to ruin him, she whispers. I just want my name back. Outside, cameras might capture her departure. Hood up, face washed out. Rumors will begin before long. Flagstaff's a small town, and rumor travels faster than fact. By nightfall, Kody knows. He slams the door of his SUV, shouting that Meri's lost it and that none of this will hold up. Robyn begs him to calm down, but the panic in his voice betrays him. They can't prove anything. Those documents were sealed. The louder a man denies, the closer he is to being exposed. As Meri's lawyer files the preliminary report, local journalists begin to dig. TLC producers, smelling drama, start calling the Browns for statements. The network wants a family mediation special, but the lawyers warn against it. This isn't TV anymore. It's legal reality. The last shot of Section 1 holds on Meri by herself in her kitchen, the letter safely back in her possession. She is aware once this comes out, it can't be undone. The woman who was previously written off as the quiet wife has the ability to topple the man who held all the power. The kettle whistles gently at her back, a countdown timer to explosion. Once secrets come out, they blaze brighter than the desert sun. She breathes, stacks the papers neatly, and mutters to herself, if the truth ruins him, then perhaps that's the cost of freedom. Cut to black. The words come onto the screen. Next, the legal storm. The downtown courthouse has weathered its fair share of storms, but none like this. Journalists sit outside in folding chairs, cameras trained on the double doors as if they are about to burst open at any moment. Inside, there's the hum of fluorescent lighting over rows of wood benches. The scent of coffee, perfume, and fear hangs in the air. Meri sits closer to the front, her attorney by her side. Across the aisle, Kody slouches toward his own lawyer, speaking in a hushed tone between clenched teeth. Robyn's there as well, hands wrapped around a tissue until it tears. She appears to have gone without sleep for days. When a family squabble reaches the courtroom, love becomes evidence. The judge steps in, cool, silver-haired, with the look of one who's witnessed every shade of heartache. The room stands, then quiets. What was a personal hurt has turned into a public accounting. First up, authenticity of documents. Boxes labeled Exhibit A through FOP are wheeled in by a clerk. Each of them is filled with years of bank records. The whispering begins at once. Home viewers would be on the edge of their seats, feeling the transition from rumor to retribution. Meri's lawyer begins. Your Honor, these records show unauthorized financial transactions made in the name of my client. We ask for verification of their source and a forensic examination. Kody's lawyer shoots up. Your Honor, these are misunderstandings between family members, not crimes. The judge raises a hand. We'll let the evidence speak. A forensic accountant takes the stand. Her voice steady, professional. She points to a digital chart showing transfers between the Browns' joint business accounts and shell entities. Each line glows like a trail of fire. These transactions add up to approximately $800,000 over a period of 5 years. All but one account have Meri Brown as signatory. Gasps reverberate through the benches. Robyn slumps her head. Numbers don't cry or lie. They simply wait for the truth to catch up. Meri shuts her eyes. She recalls signing those routine papers, believing Kody's justifications. The camera of fantasy would focus on her hand shaking minutely over the table, the wedding ring lost in oblivion. Kody's defense claims that all money went towards family investments, land acquisition, cost of production, taxes, but the tone of the accountant cuts through his rhetoric. There were withdrawals for personal luxury items, a vehicle, jewelry, and private consultant fees, not related to family businesses. Robyn can't help whispering, "Those were mine," her voice almost inaudible, but laced with fear. At recess, Meri enters the corridor. The hum of reporters mounts like bees around honey. A microphone thrusts forward. Meri, is it true your testimony could bankrupt Kody financially? She doesn't reply. She can't. The walls appear to reverberate the question until it pursues her even into the bathroom mirror. Each time you remain quiet, someone else authorizes your tale. Back inside, it's Kody's turn. He takes the stand with forced confidence, eyes darting between his lawyer and the judge. He starts smoothly. We've always shared everything as a family, but soon slips into anger. He blames confusion, bad bookkeeping, and vindictive ex-wives. The judge watches unmoved. Then there is the turning point. Meri's attorney produces a 3-year-old notarized affidavit, with Kody's digital signature authorizing a transfer in Meri's name. Kody freezes. That was automated, he blurts. A clerical thing. The courtroom whispers. The judge leans forward. Mr. Brown, are you indicating that someone forged your approval, or that you authorized this automation? Kody stammers. It was automated. The moment excuses take the place of answers, credibility bleeds out. Outside, thunder rumbles, a literal storm percolating over the desert metropolis. The hearing breaks for the day. Cameras pop as Browns depart through opposite doors. Meri strides hastily, chin high, lawyer holding her off from queries. On the other side of the plaza, Kody slams his car door so forcefully the sound reverberates like a gunshot. That evening, Meri sits alone at her window, seeing rain stream down glass. Her phone flashes a text from Christine. Proud of you. Keep telling the truth. Another from Janelle. He's frightened now. Don't back down. Meri breathes unsteadily. For the first time in years, she doesn't feel invisible. Courage is quiet at first. It whispers before it roars. Meanwhile, Robyn prowls her living room. Bills and legal notices blanket the table. We can't do this, she warns Kody. If she wins, we lose everything. Kody massages his temples. She won't win. TLC won't let this go this far. They need me. But even he can hear the empty ring of his words. The next morning, headlines splashed all over social media. Brown family finances under investigation. Former sister-wife alleges fraud. TLC issues a bland statement about respecting privacy during ongoing proceedings. But the damage is done. Sponsorships freeze. Filming halts. In the next hearing, Meri's attorney drops the bombshell, sealed testimony. The very same documents that started it all now serve as her sworn account of what she discovered. The hidden accounts, the false signatures, the manipulation. The courtroom goes still. This, the lawyer says, holding up the statement, is the record of a woman reclaiming her name. Kody looks broken, shoulders sagging, but pride won't let him admit defeat. He mutters to his attorney, "We countersue for defamation." The attorney hesitates, knowing it's a losing move. When the truth becomes heavier than your pride, collapse is inevitable. By afternoon, the judge declares an independent audit and puts all contested properties on ice. Gasps again. That includes Coyote Pass, each acre tied up until the case settles. Kody's fantasy paradise is now evidence. Meri remains silent, tears welling in her eyes. Not tears of triumph, but of release. The chain that bound them, forged through years of domination and shame, is at last beginning to crack. As she exits the courthouse, rain gives way to sun. Reporters yell questions, and she smiles weakly and says, "I told the truth. That's all." Cut to Kody standing in the parking lot, gazing out at the horizon where his land once held out hope of a future. For once he has no idea. When a kingdom collapses, it's not the walls that break first, it's the man who constructed them. The screen would black out while a narrator's voice lingers. Next time, buried evidence. What investigators found in Kody's hidden files. When the investigators at last entered Kody Brown's former Flagstaff office, the room was full of dust and secrets. Boxes stood against the walls, unlabeled, with only faint Sharpie scribbles. Family expenses, TLC contracts, land shares, Coyote Pass. But tucked in the back corner, buried under a folded tarp, was one simple black lockbox that would upend everything. They didn't anticipate finding it that day. The subpoena was for their financial records, not family archives. But the minute they pried that box open, a new level of the Brown family's secret history unfolded before their eyes. There were USB drives, scribbled notes, and a pile of printed emails, each and every one of them revealing a pattern of financial transactions that just didn't add up. Every document linked names from each of the 4 wives, Meri, Janelle, Christine, and Robyn, to the same single account, held by Kody. And not only any account, it was a private fund, one that for years had been used to transfer cash between Coyote Pass LLCs and the family's defunct production company enterprises. The investigators looked at each other uncertainly. Something didn't sound right. That night, when the files were entered into evidence, Meri's lawyer reportedly grew silent. She recognized the handwriting on several notes. It was Kody's. One note in particular sent chills down her spine. If they ever try to leave, make sure the assets are frozen. That line became the center of the new legal storm. The deposed testimony leaked by Meri already shook the case. But these hidden records, they were the missing pieces. Investigators now suspected that Kody had moved the over $400,000 in joint family funds into his own business ventures in secret. The kicker? Many of the transactions were done around the same time Christine and Janelle started pulling away from the family. It wasn't about property anymore. It was about intent. Kody's lawyers rushed to plead that the accounts were real. Routine business procedure, they argued. But the paper trail betrayed them. Investigators uncovered duplicates of handwritten contracts never brought before a judge, signed by Kody and Robyn. The language was chillingly strategic, explaining how Coyote Pass would still be in Kody's exclusive control even as marital forms change. That sentence, "if marital structures change," was enough for the prosecutors to hear. All of a sudden, the case that had started as a mere property dispute was converted into a complete financial inquiry. Forensic audit was ordered by the court, and the media, always lurking around the Brown household, started to pick up rumors of secret deeds and offshore transactions. TLC, in an effort to shield its brand, remained tight-lipped. No denial, no words. Just frantic behind-the-scenes silence. The researchers' next destination was Kody's own personal laptop, which had been taken under a second warrant. There they discovered the last component of the hidden evidence, a confidential folder called Family Plan 2.0. Scanned copies of emails between Kody and an attorney specializing in real estate, emails about transferring parts of the Coyote Pass land into a trust, thereby excluding the other wives, unless they executed new non-disclosure agreements, were found inside. The timestamps? Weeks before Meri's now famous testimony. The tone of those emails told the story of a man desperate to maintain control. He wasn't just protecting land, he was building a financial fortress, one designed to survive even if the family imploded. One investigator later summarized it best in a memo that eventually leaked to the press. Subject seems to foresee dissolution of plural marriage and attempts to amass power in real estate ownership. When that memo emerged online, fans went wild. Social media broke into hashtags such as hidden files #Kody control, #Coyote Pass truth. Reddit forums spilled with amateur detectives poring over screenshots, and reruns of Sister Wives were watched frame by frame for secret messages. Suddenly, what had seemed like ordinary scenes, a discussion about budgeting, a remark about trust, felt charged with fresh significance. But the true surprise occurred when detectives discovered one final envelope within the black lockbox, labeled with a lone word, Meri. Within was a letter, personal, unflinching, and written almost a decade prior. The writing was uneven, emotive. It was from Meri herself. "I know what you're doing," it said, "and someday they'll know too. You can hide money, but you can't hide the truth." That letter, discovered years later, put everything in a new light. It implied Meri had known about Kody's secret accounts for years before anyone else. It also provided the reason why her testimony had been so detailed, so persistent, and why her words had broken Kody financially in the first place. To investigators, the discovery proved that Meri's words weren't driven by bitterness, they were warnings. The evidence was now undeniable. The man who once prided himself on family unity had quietly built an empire of control and concealment, and Meri had been the only one brave enough to leave a trail behind. By the end of that week, the Brown case changed yet again. Court documents mentioned newly discovered materials, and sealed hearings were held without notice to the public. But that didn't deter the rumors. In back rooms, attorneys argued over how much of this hidden evidence would be disclosed. If half of it leaked, it had the potential to ruin not only Kody's bankroll, but TLC's reputation forever featuring the family's happy unity facade. Meri's team meanwhile stayed silent. For them the truth was already out there, buried once, but not anymore. And as for Kody, witnesses described him as furious but cornered. For the first time, his authority meant nothing in front of the law. The same man who once commanded 4 wives and a sprawling TV empire was now facing the possibility of losing everything: his land, his show, and his name. When the investigators closed that final box and departed from the property, they knew the Brown family drama wasn't finished. They had merely scratched the surface of something far more sinister, something that would later cause the ultimate conflict in court. But at that moment, as the sun set behind the Arizona hills, one thing was certain: the buried files were no longer buried. And for Kody Brown, his empire built on secrets was about to come tumbling down, one leaked page at a time. The courtroom was quiet, that oppressive, unsettling silence that seems to reverberate with life. All eyes were trained on Kody Brown, who slumped in the defendant's chair, his once arrogant shoulders now slumped like a man defeated by his own guilt. The judge's gavel had not fallen, but everyone in the courtroom sensed it would soon. The coup de grace. The leaked testimony, Meri's words had spread through social media and the tabloids like wildfire. The world now knew about Kody's hidden accounts, his property deals, and his manipulation behind the scenes. Fans of Sister Wives were no longer whispering, they were shouting, "How could he do this? Was Meri the real hero all along?" And Kody there appeared less the man who had ruled over 4 marriages than someone attempting to weather the tempest he had unleashed. "You constructed this empire of deception, Mr. Brown." The judge's voice finally sounded. Her words were smooth, but every one cut like a knife. And today those deceptions have repercussions. The camera of our mind zooms in on Kody's face, his jaw shaking, eyes scoping out Robyn, who was a few rows in back, holding tissues, white and smeared with sobs. Christine and Janelle didn't even glance at him. Meri, though, fixed her gaze ahead of her, her face inscrutable. The tension was so heavy, you could have heard the walls breathing. Sometimes the loudest sound in a courtroom isn't the judge's gavel. It's the moment a man realizes he's lost everything. The prosecution began unveiling the documents, the same ones Meri's secret testimony had exposed: hidden property transfers, a mysterious account under an LLC connected to Coyote Pass, checks written out to shell companies. The pattern was undeniable. The screen in the courtroom burst into light, revealing Kody's own signature on papers that went against his sworn testimony. Gasps shook the room. Kody's lawyer hunched forward, hissing in urgency, but Kody's gaze was locked on the screen. His empire, his family, had become evidence against him. Then came the real bombshell. One file, marked confidential, contained detailed communications between Kody and a financial consultant, planning to move assets before a family trust meeting. The timeline matched exactly when Meri had confronted him years earlier about missing money. It wasn't just betrayal. It was premeditated. Meri's hands tightened around her folder as the prosecutor read aloud her words. Her original testimony. "He told me he was doing it to keep the family safe. But nothing he did kept us safe. It only kept him safe." The audience, former fans, reporters, family, could sense the poignancy of that line. Robyn's eyes welled with tears, and she whispered, "He was just trying to protect us." But even she sounded like she was trying to persuade herself. Each secret sooner or later gets an echo. And in this courtroom, Kody was hearing his comeback in spades. When Kody finally got on the stand, the mood changed. He stood up straight, attempted to take charge again, that characteristic bravado flashing to life. "I loved my family," he said, his voice cracking a little. "I was doing what any husband would, trying to keep everyone safe when things got tough." The judge leaned forward. "Mr. Brown, this has nothing to do with love. It has everything to do with lying." A sharp breath swept through the crowd. Kody's face set in a hard expression. His eyes snapped back to Meri once more, but they no longer begged. They seethed. The man who had once professed oneness gazed at his first wife as if she was an adversary. Meri didn't blink. Her silence was her strength. The prosecution proceeded, recounting the chronology of secret transfers and obligations. Every exhibit was a knife. Every date coincided with a fight, a relocation, a financial adjustment. Janelle dabbed at her eyes. Christine appeared enraged. Robyn appeared bereft. and for the first time, Kody appeared, small. The courtroom atmosphere thickened once more. The session was held up for a recess by the judge, but no one stirred. The family sat stock still in their seats, as if exiting the room would be to confront the truth. Reporters outside were already referring to it as the Brown family collapse trial. When truth comes out, it doesn't merely reveal lies. It remakes history. During the break, Kody's attorney attempted to humanize him. They showed snippets from sister wives, highlighting laughter moments, togetherness, smiling children. It was manipulation on an emotional level at its best. An effort to make the court remember that at one time, this had been a family, not a corporation. It failed, because between those clips, everyone recalled what followed: the bitterness, the divorces, the confessions. The courtroom wasn't witnessing nostalgia. They were witnessing the collapse of an empire they believed in once. Then there was the financial verdict. The forensic accountant had testified that Kody's dishonesty and behind-the-scenes shenanigans had put the family millions in debt. The estates that were associated with Kody Pass were now in jeopardy. The LLCs, frozen in their tracks. The payments from TLC, diverted pending examination. The gavel finally came down. Judgment in favor of the plaintiffs, announced the judge. And with it, the courtroom's collective breath escaped. With the fury of a burst dam, Kody's face went white. His lawyer spoke something into his ear, but Kody did not catch it. Meri closed her eyes, not in triumph, but in serenity. Robyn extended her hand to rest on Kody's arm as he was led away, but he did not glance around. The man who once controlled 4 wives, a television contract, and the reins of a family empire left the courtroom by himself. When control is all you want, losing it is death. As the reporters encircled the courthouse steps, flashbulbs flashed. Headlines wrote themselves. Leaked docs end Brown legacy. Kody bankrupt wives win battle. But behind those headlines were broken lives. Particularly Meri, who gazed at the courthouse doors long after Kody had left. Her testimony had ruined him, yes, but it had set her free, and as she mouthed to herself, "It's finally over," the audience felt both the relief and the eerie silence that comes after years of turmoil. The screen goes black. A sole sound remains, the echo of that gavel ringing in memory like a slowing heartbeat. Sometimes justice doesn't heal, it simply shuts down the noise. The doors to the courthouse shut behind them, and for the first time in years, silence. No cameras, no screaming fans. Just the chill of shoes against marble, and the somber realization that things would never be the same. Meri stood at the courthouse steps, her breath misting in the evening air. She wasn't smiling, but she was at peace, like someone who'd finally reached the top of a mountain she never intended to ascend. Behind her, Christine and Janelle exchanged a poignant look, half sad and half relieved. Robyn hung back by the door, her eyes scanning for Kody, but he was nowhere to be seen, swept away in the throng of reporters pursuing his collapse. Occasionally the end of a tale isn't a crash, it's the silence after the crash. In the weeks that passed, the Brown family house in Flagstaff became emptier. Children's laughter had turned to whispers. Family portraits were removed from the walls, placed into boxes, and relegated to hallways that had the faint scent of dust and memories. The world may have witnessed a family disunited by money and deception, but within there remained patches of pure humanity. Janelle sat at her kitchen table late one evening, bills out before her, laptop aglow. She was rebuilding, slowly, obstinately. "I won't let his mess define me," she whispered. And deep inside, a spark of pride flared. Strength does not always roar. Sometimes it is the whisper of a woman beginning anew with only her name. Christine relocated to Utah, nearer to her children. She strolled past the mountains each morning, the air on her face a reminder that she had endured worse challenges. The court wars, the betrayal, they weren't the demise of her existence. They were the confirmation that she had won. She began laughing again, a laughter that seemed genuine this time. Meri spent most of her time at Lizzie's Heritage Inn, her peaceful retreat. The inn had originally been a business venture to impress Kody, but now it belonged to her and her alone. Guests commented on how the air around her seemed lighter, how she smiled more freely. When they asked what the past had taught her, she replied simply, "It taught me everything I needed to know about love and truth." Healing isn't amnesia, it's opting for peace once the truth finally falls. Robyn, however, suffered the most. She continued to think Kody had been in the wrong, that the court had blown things out of proportion, but even she couldn't deny the silence. Phone calls weren't returned, texts remained unread. One evening, she glanced around her living room, at the family photos that no longer qualified as memories, just specters. And Kody, his empire lost, his funds in suspension, his name dragged through constant headlines. He stepped away from the limelight, avoiding cameras, avoiding everyone. They said he was out of town altogether. Some whispered he was living in quiet anonymity in Nevada, others said he remained in Flagstaff, ashamed to come out. Wherever he was, though, one thing was definite: he was alone. When the light of publicity dims, truth is all that stays with you. Months went by. EC declared that sister wives would carry on, not as the tale of polygamy, but as a survival story. Each of the women was asked to speak on her own terms. No scripting, no editing. It wasn't about fault anymore. It was about taking back voices that were lost in the shadow of Kody. The show began with Meri on the porch of the inn, a coffee cup in hand. The morning sun cast a peaceful glow on her. "People ask me if I regret testifying," she murmured. "But you can't regret telling the truth. You can only regret waiting so long to do it." The home audience were silent. The same home fans who once took sides now merely listened. Sometimes the actual redemption narrative is that of the person who finally ceased waiting for permission. While Christine's spot was on the air, with her cooking with her daughters and discussing forgiveness, even the internet melted. The comments were different. Less gossip, more compassion. "She looks happy. She deserved peace." They all did. Janelle's turn next was her laughter during video calls with her children, her resolve to rebuild. "You know," she told the camera, "money can come and go, but knowing who you are, that's something Kody never took from me." And Robyn, in her last on-screen apology, finally revealed what the world had long assumed. "I wanted to believe he loved us all equally," she wept. "But deep down, I think he only ever loved control." That one sentence became the series' defining quote. It wasn't about Kody Brown anymore. It is about anyone who's ever lost themselves trying to make someone else happy. The network dubbed it Sister Wives Reclaimed. Ratings skyrocketed. But beyond the numbers, the women reclaimed their story. Redemption is not handed over, but rather reclaimed one truth at a time. Months later, Meri visited Coyote Pass, for the first time since the verdict. The land was quiet, untouched. She stood at the fence line and closed her eyes. For years this place had symbolized broken promises, a dream that never became reality. Now it was just land again. Free, she placed a hand on the post and whispered, "We're finally free." The camera would have panned up were this a movie, and the Arizona sun would have burst through clouds. But in life there was no director, no score, merely Meri and the wind, sweeping away the last of the dust. The greatest stories don't end in triumph, they end in comprehension. Weeks later, Janelle and Christine took her out to dinner. They laughed at things they assumed they'd forgotten how to laugh at. Robyn didn't show up, but they left one of the chairs empty for her anyway. Because no matter how shattered things had gotten, some piece of them would always be in the same story. And when Meri raised her glass, she made a simple toast. To peace, to truth, and to never letting anyone write our story for us again. They clinked their glasses together, their laughter carrying off into the night desert. "So now I'll switch it to you. What do you think comes next? Should Kody and the others forgive Meri, or leave things in the past? Tell me what you do in the comments below. Because sometimes the next chapter isn't written by the people in the tale, it's written by the ones still watching."